Their minds broke first. Ours were already shattered. In the endless void between stars, the wreckage of the Vigilance drifted silently. It wasn't just the ship's hull torn to twisted metal or the blackened corridors where shadows seemed to move of their own accord. No, what shattered first was the sanity of the crew. And then, when we arrived, the emptiness inside us finally snapped. They called it the mindfall, a phenomenon so horrific that even the most advanced psych tech failed to shield against it. When the Vigilance's distress signal blinks on our radar, every rational part of me screams to turn away. But we didn't. We had to know what happened to them. What broke their minds in the cold dark, where no one could hear a scream. We boarded the ship like ghosts stepping into a tomb. The air was thick with silence, so complete it pressed into our ears. The crew logs were fragmented, their last transmissions garbled whispers of something watching and waiting. Their eyes, when we found them in the medbay, were hollow, glazed with fear that no words could hold. They weren't dead. Not really. They were empty vessels, shadows of people who had faced whatever lurked in the void and lost. It wasn't long before we realized the mindfall wasn't just a mental collapse. It was a predator, a parasite of thought and emotion. It fed on fear, on doubt, on every fragment of fragile hope. And it had found us because it knew we were broken, too. Our minds weren't whole when we left Earth. We had survived wars, famines, betrayals. Our collective psyche scarred by generations of pain. That's what made us different. Other species might crumble under such pressure, but humanity was a shattered mirror, reflecting endless fractures of resilience. While their minds broke first, ours were already fragments trying desperately to hold together. In the corridors, the lights flickered, casting grotesque shadows that twisted into faces we wanted to forget. The air smelled of ozone and despair. I could feel it crawling beneath my skin, a whisper in the back of my mind. Coaxing doubts, memories we buried deep. The mindfall was patient. It played on every insecurity, dragging them to the surface like blood and water. One by one, the crew began to change. Not physically. No visible wounds. No alien parasites. Instead, their eyes went dark. They stopped responding. When they did, their voices were hollow echoes, repeating phrases we never said but somehow remembered. You're broken. We all are. I fought to keep my mind intact. I focused on the cold logic drilled into me since boot camp, the training that told me fear was a weapon I could control, not a cage. But the more I resisted, the more it screamed beneath the surface. The mindfall wasn't just attacking my thoughts. It was rewriting them, folding nightmares into memories, twisting love into hatred, hope into despair. I reached the bridge, hoping for answers. The captain's chair was empty, but the hollow recording was still active. The last message was a frantic warning about the reflection in the dark, and the thing that knows us better than we know ourselves. It ended abruptly, the captain's voice breaking into static and a final, chilling breath. That breath was not human. Then it hit me. This was not just a ship lost in space. It was a crucible, a test designed to strip away sanity and reveal what lay beneath. Their minds broke first because they were whole once. Ours were already shattered, fractured by history, by survival, by the unbearable weight of existence. And in that brokenness lay a terrifying strength. The mindfall was not a predator to us. It was a mirror. When the infected tried to reach me, I saw it clearly. Their movements were jerky, like puppets pulled by unseen strings. But their eyes reflected my own fractures, my own broken pieces. They were begging for release, for understanding. In that moment, I realized the horror was not the mindfall itself, but what it revealed. We were already lost. I felt the darkness close in, threatening to consume me, to dissolve me into nothingness. But something deeper inside, something ancient and raw, fought back. Our shattered minds were not weak. They were armor. We had learned to survive on fragments, to wield chaos like a blade. The mindfall was trying to break us, but it had only unleashed the storm within. I seized control of the ship's systems, flooding the corridors with a pulse of electromagnetic waves designed to disrupt neural activity. It was a desperate gamble. The infected convulsed, their bodies spasming as the mindfall screamed in psychic agony. The shadows dissolved. The silence shattered. But the victory was hollow. The ship's systems were failing, and the vigilance was adrift, a corpse in the void. We were alive, yes, but changed, not healed. The mindfall had not left. It had only retreated, waiting for the next crack in our armor. As I sent a distress beacon, a thought gripped me like ice. We were not victims. We were survivors forged in the crucible of broken minds. The mindfall thought it preyed on us, but it had unleashed a force it could never understand. Humanity's brutal, relentless will to endure. Our minds may be shattered, but within those shards burns a fire no darkness can extinguish. And in the deepest silence of space, I whispered to the void. They thought our minds would break, but they were wrong. We were already broken, and broken things cut the deepest.